We used to have a lot of babies. We used to make a lot of babies. U.S. is at 1.6. Japan's at 0.7, sexless society. Muslim nations, they're not at 1.6. They're not at 0.7. You know, if this goes the way it's going, you don't have a choice. You know, if you continue...
well, that's one of the explanations for why mass legal and illegal migration is allowed in Western democracies, is that it is also able to make up the shortfall like that. Yeah. There's a demographic problem in most developed countries. And, I mean, if you speak to the Japanese about this, one of the interesting things about it is, of course, is that they have this terrible replacement, you know, as you say, under 1%, 2 to 1 replacement level. But they have made the decision that they will deal with that shortage in the labor force and the pension payments and else through various means. But the means they don't want to do it through is through immigration. They've decided, I mean, because they know there's what's called the pyramid in immigration, where if you are having to bring in more people to pay for the pensions of the people who are, you know, of pensionable age, you then have to bring in more people underneath them to pay for those ones' pensions when they go up. And before you know it, the whole thing has grown all the time. It's going
to eventually collapse. The math goes against you.
Look, that's my view. And I always cite the famous Herb Stein's law. You know that one? Things that cannot go on won't.
Sounds like common sense.
Yeah, except that I've learned in the course of my career the number of times I've thought that things that obviously could not go on, they just do. Or they do for a very long time. Or they do much longer than you'd have expected them to.
I can see that.
I mean, I think that about European society. I think that about the illegal migration in the US. I think that about the welfare system. I think that about just take the number of people in the US now who are relying on some form of housing. New York, where I live, it's billions of dollars a year being paid to keep illegal migrants in hotels. How many years can New York keep housing anyone who's walked across the southern border in the Watson Hotel near Columbus Circle? I don't know. I'd have thought not very long. But I bet you the city authorities and Kathy Hochul and everyone else will try to keep it just as long as they are in office, and then they'll hand it over to their successors, and at some point the thing goes bust. That's how it happens.
Talk Israel. So in U.S., something interesting is going on in the U.S. where, you know, you have this whole October 7th, once it happened, and, you know, reaction, cannot believe what took place. You know, conversations, you, Piers Morgan, a lot of different, and then it got heated and more heated and more heated. And then there was a sect in U.S. that, you know, became not necessarily anti-Semitic, but, hey, you know, the division between Israel and this is them and they're causing this, is their fault, and, you know, why are they starting it, and back and forth. And you're seeing the protesting in the States that's going on in many different colleges and universities that's going on here. And I don't know if, did you watch the recent podcast, what's his name? Tucker Carlson did with, what's his name? It's a very, very good podcast. Can you zoom in to see what his name is, Rob? Did you watch his show between the two of them?
Oh, yeah. This is this historian no one's heard of.
Yeah, this is the historian you're saying that no one's heard of. And if this is the clip, Rob, matter of fact, just play this clip. Is this the one where he says, he's talking about Churchill and Hitler in this one?
Yes, this is that clip.
Play this clip. Play this clip.
The reason I resent Churchill so much for it.
Go back a little bit. Go back a little bit so you can hear it. Yeah, go for it.
The reason I resent Churchill so much for it is that he kept this war going when he had no way to go back and fight this war. All he had were bombers. He was literally, by 1940, sending bomber fleets to go firebomb the Black Forest, just to burn down sections of the Black Forest. Just rank terrorism, you know. Go on. The reason
if you watch this whole thing, which I don't know if you have or not, okay. If you watch it, now, Tucker...
I've read the main points.
Okay, got it. Why do you think there is a split now, even within the conservative movement, about Israel, where some are taking different positions than you would think conservatives would typically be supportive of Israel? Why do you think that's happening?
No, I think it's the same thing. There are splits everywhere. I mean, splits on the left, splits on the right, Democrats who agree with Republicans on certain issues, other Republicans that would agree across the aisle on a different issue. I think there are lots of issues that are not left-right. Israel was never a left-right issue, particularly. It never has. It's been, certainly support for Israel has been a left-right consensus in the US. In the early years of Israel, of course, until 67 and 73, partly because of Soviet support early on, and partly because of the kibbutznik movement, it was seen as a socialist thing. All the left supported it. There was a residue of right-wing anti-Israelism in that period that never quite went away, but largely disappeared. But this I don't know. I mean, this guy is on a different strand, isn't he? But it's quite interesting that this guy's ended up here. I find anti-Churchillism to be a very interesting, weird diversion. As far as I can see, this guy's all of his facts are wrong. If anyone wants to read two very, very good rebuttals of the things this guy says, they should read the historian Andrew Roberts, whose book Churchill Walking with Destiny is the best one-volume biography of Churchill done in recent years. And they can also read Victor Davis Hanson's response to the interview. Victor Davis Hanson, of course, author of many great books of history. This guy, I mean, his timeline was out on absolutely everything. It was embarrassing. He didn't know when Churchill became Prime Minister. He blamed things that had happened before Churchill became Prime Minister, when Chamberlain was still Prime Minister. He made completely erroneous claims about when Churchill was First Lord of the Admiralty and what he did. He made this completely cuckoo claim about what Churchill did where he wasn't even there in relation to the First World War. All of his stuff is off, and you've got to...
So you did watch it. You paid attention.
I did not watch the whole thing, but what I did was I read every summary I could of it. Look, if you look at the 1940s and you decide that Churchill's the baddie, you're not in a good place. The war, to restate something that every elementary school kid should know, the Second World War started because Hitler invaded Poland. And then he started invading Western European countries as well. There was no point in this time when Churchill was causing the war. It's an astonishing piece of ignorance, but it's a revisionist type of history which we have seen before. Everybody who knows about the Second World War period knows there is always some kind of... There's always some revisionist. David Irving did it in the past, always wanted to show that Hitler didn't really mean to do anything he did, and it wasn't Hitler that was a bad guy, it was just the people around him who misled him, and so on. This stuff is always around. It's like it's another one of the perennial traps for people to fall into. How somebody can end up defaming Churchill like this is extraordinary to me, especially when they're wrong on all of the major facts and can't even get their timelines right. Britain was in a war of what we call a total war against Nazi Germany, which was a war to avert complete annihilation on both sides. This man seems to think, as far as I can understand from the bullet points and summaries I've read of what he's written and what I can see from Andrew Roberts and Victor Davis Hanson's very comprehensive rebuttals, he seems to think that the Blitz that my grandparents lived through was in London was all Winston Churchill's fault. My grandparents and others would have been very surprised to hear that in the year 2024 people were making that claim. I find it kind of despicable as well as just deeply disingenuous and just factually, as I say, as far as I can see, factually completely wrong. But I'm interested in why somebody would end up there. I wrote in The War on the West about the left's hatred of Churchill. And I've thought about it a lot because the left in recent years has really been coming for Winston Churchill. His reputation, everything about him. They accuse him of being responsible for the Bengal Famine in 1943. Absolutely nothing. I mean, it's just another complete piece of fabrication of the evidence. Again, it's been dealt with by the Churchill biographers, Martin Gilbert, Andrew Roberts, all the others. But, you know, now if a young person knows about Churchill in Britain, a lot of them will only know about Bengal Famine and so on. There has been a concerted effort on the left to defame Winston Churchill.
We know that. I mean, even with Obama getting into office, taking this, you know.
Right.
This is Tucker.
Right, but why is this coming from another direction now? I'm slightly bemused by it. You can make criticisms of Churchill, of course, and there are criticisms because, and you could say that for instance, the grain that arrived from Australia to Bengal was too slow in 43, but Churchill didn't cause the typhoon that started the famine. And, it is possible that when you are running, the largest navy in the world and fighting in Africa, in Europe, the Far East, and many other places, and you have an entirely mobilized citizen population fighting for their survival, that you are likely to drop some balls, for sure. And is that to be highlighted and mentioned? Sure, if you want to. You would also assume that standing alone against fascism would count for something. And
why do you think of Tucker? Tucker is very.
I don't want to get into an analysis of Tucker because
no. Why is it? Is it purely for conversation? Is it pure? Know. Are you familiar with Anthony C. Sutton?
No.
He wrote 2 books: Wall Street and the Bolshevik Revolution, Wall Street and the Rise of Hitler.
Don't know.
You've
them.
Never heard of him?
Don't
okay.
know them.
That face. Do you recognize that or no?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, his claim was the fact that Churchill, had a choice between, being a Zionist or a Bolshevik and which direction to take. If you've not heard what he has to say, he was an interesting guy back in the days. He passed away in 2002.
He said that Churchill had to choose between Zionism and Bolshevism?
Well, he's saying the fact that Wall Street had a lot of influence over the things that was happening. Funding. They were funding many different things. So they were funding, supporting money on this side, supporting money on the other side. Yeah, that book right there, Wall Street and the Rise of Hitler.
Okay.
Where he's saying a lot of the...
There's quite a lot of literature on World War II, so you'll forgive me if I don't know.
No, it's totally fine. I just think about it when you see a person like Tucker interviewing someone like that, he's given that person permission to give their argument. And I'm trying to find out what the reason for that would be.
You'd have to ask Tucker that. I'm just rather bemused. You've said that he said that Churchill had to choose between Bolshevism and Zionism? So
going back to it. So when remember how earlier we were talking about the Tsar Nicholas II, and you have Lenin and Stalin and all these guys, and how they thought maybe Lenin would have been somebody that they could have controlled as a puppet master. Hey, we can help these guys out. And then they're trying to see how they can...
Who thought that?
How can they cause a fall where this would be one way of causing a fall in Russia? But anyway, if you've not looked into it and see his interviews, I don't even want to go there because it's going to throw everybody off. Okay, so let me ask you another question here for you. Jews, Israel. Sometimes they get, especially nowadays, the power of AIPAC, how much control AIPAC has, how much influence AIPAC has. If AIPAC wants to get rid of Cory Bush, they can. If AIPAC wants to get rid of a Douglas, they can. If they want to get rid of a candidate, they can. They have that kind of influence, that kind of money.
You think they can?
I think they have influence to be able to do that if they choose to. They can put some money behind it.
Is there a reason why it didn't work with Al Omar then?
It doesn't mean that it's going to happen 100% of the time, but you have the resources and the influence. That's what some people are making the argument with. Listen, we get a lot of messages that, hey, how do you guys get your stories? Everything you've been doing. Eventually, I decided to invest a lot of money into it, hired 15 machine learning guys to make a new site available to you guys. We wanted to build it for us, but we're making it public to everybody. It's a freemium. Then there's 2 different paid aspects to it called vtnews.ai. I'm going to play a commercial for you. This is the first time you're seeing a commercial to understand what this is all about. This is an aggregated site where you need to only visit one news site that feeds everything in from others. No bias. We're not writing the articles. Other people are writing it. And you get to read the article and say, this is a left source. This is a right source. This is center. Rob, play this clip. Go for it.
There are currently 8.2 billion people on Earth. 6.9 billion use their smartphones to read an astonishing 2 million news articles every day. Before you read another news article, it's important to understand how news outlets make money. Change, conflict, controversy. In other words, the angrier you get, the more money they make. So how do you get your peace of mind back? when every outlet has their own
The
motive.
media leaving out the full context of what Trump was saying, instead pumping out these types of headlines.
Left-leaning, right-leaning. Who can you trust? Introducing VTnews.ai, an innovative news source that uses AI and machine learning to deliver a more human understanding of what's going on. There's more than one side to every story. Who's covering it? What are their agendas? Why is one side reporting a story when the other side is ignoring it? VT News shows them all. Access to 130,000 news sources, most advanced AI in news, ability to chat with VT AI, bias meter showing the number of left, right and center sources. Lopsided stories are clearly identified. News timelines covering the lifespan of the story and predictions. Bring the pursuit of truth to your fingertips. Visit VTnews.ai, your only destination for news.
We are so excited about this. We are so excited about this that finally this product is here that we can release to you. We shared this at the Vol conference. The reception was absolutely insane. For those of you guys that run podcasts or you're busy like me, you're somebody that's an executive businessman, you're running around, you got a lot of things going on. You don't have time for a lot of things. You just kind of want to see the motives and the bias on the stories. Go become a member. There's 3 tiers. The freemium, you got the 2nd tier and a 3rd tier that gives you unlimited amount of questions and customization for your own news, including local. Mess around with it. Go to vtnews.ai. We got a lot of big plans with this year because it's another one of those businesses that feeds into what we're doing. Again, go to vtnews.ai, become a member, take advantage of the freemium or anything else that it offers for you. And we're excited about other things that's coming in the future with this.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.